What's up, guys? So in the last couple of, let me rephrase that. Over the last couple of years, well, months, I've actually been working a lot on, I gotta say, how do I want to start this? So I pretty much started a YouTube channel maybe a year ago. And over the course of that year, I've kind of taken on a couple of different jobs with regards to data science, data analysis, data engineering, and they've all been kind of related to teaching, pretty much synthesizing data, right? Just pretty much anything really related data. And I put this kind of project on the side because it just didn't seem right at the moment. And only that, I was actually really stressed about a lot of the data that I was working with. So moving forward, I'm just going to kind of start doing this as like a vlog and then kind of transition all of that information into like skills that I want to continue to practice. So I'm going to be using Anki again. And pretty much all that Anki really is it's pretty much just a flashcard set. So I'm going to be working with something that's known as mental models. And I'm going to be using a software known as OBS to go ahead and record everything. And then likewise, I'm probably just going to find some editing software since iTunes Movie or iMovie, whenever I edit with that, for whatever reason, like the videos, they come out at like the size of maybe 3 or 4 gigabits. So let's go ahead and dive into like what I'm working on today. And then in time, really pretty much today is just going to be like building up the momentum again of thinking in terms of a creator, meaning I'm going to copy Tim Ferriss and what he did. So makers versus managers. Try to make first thing in the morning, and then the rest of the day you can manage the pile of filth that you need to clean, for lack of a better term. So let's go ahead and just dive into like what I'm working on now, and they're known as mental models. Let's see. So Farnham Street. So I've got a couple of things. Let's just create that, and then I could get into like Farnham Street later. So ultimately, what I'm going to be working on right now is just creating flashcards for mental models. And what mental models are is they're pretty much like they're models that Charlie Munger uses to make better decisions in life or just business, whatever. My idea is that if you kind of go through life and you practice skills, certain skills, or use them consistently every day, like communication, if you so some of the things I probably am going to be using for like the rest of my life. Like what skills will you use for the rest of your life? So my idea is I'm definitely going to be thinking. I'm going to need to make hard decisions. So I should probably work on like thinking better, having better thoughts, and understanding the world in a better way by taking on more mental models. That's kind of why I'm building on this. Likewise, I'm probably going to be doing communication, both with like body language as well as just general communication. So I'm probably going to use Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, and then likewise Charisma on Command. I'll probably be doing that as well. And then there are a couple of other things such as machine learning, which I'll get into later. Right now I'm working on future predictions, forecasting, creating a forecasting model to predict future like sales, right? Just using data. And that's kind of like why I kind of took a backseat to making all these videos in the first place, was because I was really just focused on really just kind of getting up to speed, working in like a very professional manner for like pretty much a new company, like starting a new job, right? And so to do that, I just took a lot of time to kind of work on some other things, and that stress kind of built up to it accumulated in something that's probably not beneficial for me long term. But the knowledge that I acquired is there, and I'm definitely going to be sharing that. Maybe using Snowflake, maybe using some other things to go ahead and query data with SQL, and then I'll get into like how I can query like 300 million rows of data in a fairly short period of time. But for this, let's just dive in. I keep saying let's dive in, so let's dive in. So what I have in front of me are pretty much just notes. Like I'm just going to keep looking down, looking at my notes, and I'm going to create these flashcards. And luckily I've already kind of arranged everything so that way I already have all 100 mental models for Charlie Munger. That at least that he has been like contributed, like he's the person that kind of came up with, not really coming up with it, but like is awarded for saying like these are the mental models that I use, right? So let's go ahead and create them. So in this video, pretty much just going to be creating flashcards with Anki. So all I'm going to be doing is pretty much just creating flashcards and then going through like my thought process of like, how would I retain this information? So the first one is Parkinson's law, and it's pretty much based on management. Now, what Parkinson's law is, let's go ahead and create it first. So it'll be Parkinson's law. And then what is that? So what is this? So let's go ahead and do, actually, what's going on here? I feel that there should be a title. Maybe not. Let's go ahead and see what this looks like. So work expands to fill the time available for its completion. Likewise, the more time we give a task, the more complex we will make it. So you can save yourself time and energy, time and effort by assigning the correct amount of time to a given task. So you can save time and effort by assigning the appropriate, what was it? The correct amount of time to a given task. Sure. The correct amount of time to a given task. So if this is kind of boring, feel free to like move on. I'm just getting into the habit of really creating videos again. And then pretty much what I'll be doing is they'll maybe get better in the future, at least 1%. So with every video. So theoretically in 100 videos, they should be like 100% better. But that's probably not always the case. And if it is 100%, it's really just 2x, right? So Parkinson's law, work expands to fill the time available for its completion. The more time we give a task, the more complex we will make it. You can save time and effort by assigning the correct amount of time to a given task. So pretty straightforward. Probably won't get into that too much. So I'll move on to Occam's razor next. So let's go ahead and just click add, and we'll go to Occam's razor. So you have a close note type, but have not made any close. Oh boy, I don't know what that is. So let's do a no. And then let me see, so that's the text. What I'm gonna do, just in case it does get removed, I'm gonna copy this. And let's go ahead and just delete that, and let's just see what happens if I click yes. Cool, so let's close this down, let's see. Study now. No close, what is that? Let's go to, can I go back? Let's go to add. Interesting. Let's choose that. Now let's try this again. And then let's go ahead and actually copy this entire thing. Delete you, delete you. Let's go ahead and add it now. Let's see what happens. Perfect. And then let's close it back down. Show the answer. Cool. Parkinson's law. So now it shows up. Cool. And then let's go ahead and add the next one. So the next one is Occam's razor. Occam's razor. Now, as far as I can tell, without like looking at my notes, Occam's razor is the simplest solution is usually the best solution, right? So all things being equal, the simplest solution tends to be the best. We should discard the things which are unknowable, so the things which are unknowable and unimportant. Just because something is complicated, it does not mean it's worth anything. Keep everything simple. So keep it simple, stupid, right? So all things being equal, the simplest solution, tends to be, where am I at? Tends to be the best. All things being equal, the simplest solution tends to be the best. We should discard the things which are unknowable and unimportant. Just because something is complex, is complicated, it does not mean it is worth anything. keep everything simple. Cool. So if the camera's recording, you're actually still watching this. First off, I'm surprised. Secondly, I've got kind of a ghetto stand. So what I have is I have like 2 big books, like of 800 pages each, and then I have a little stand for my laptop, and I'm just pretty much recording on the laptop on this really cheap and shaky standing desk. So that's Occam's razor. 98. Now we're moving on to survivorship bias. Let's add that. Now let's go to survivorship bias. So survivorship bias, what do we got? Right. So, okay, so I'll try to think this through. So survivorship bias is, after looking at the first line of my notes, is we take information from winners and discard all the losers, even though the vast majority of losers, we don't actually like see what those results were, right? We choose to select and focus on those that made it rather than those that failed. So if we use this in life, I guess, like when starting a business, okay, I'll just look at my notes. So pretty much, if there are many successful bars in your area, you may think about opening one yourself, but the bars which failed are invisible to you. Their information is lost, right? So how can we use that with making business decisions? That may be a topic for another time. I actually created quite a few Shopify stores, and none of them actually took off, but that's also because I just quit on them. Mostly because my gut instinct felt that someone else was already kind of doing it, so why would I want to be building or trying to build a company around that? Why have competition in such an area, right? So we tend to focus on the survivors and the winners for our information and discount the losers. I feel like I messed that up. So we tend to focus on the survivors and the winners for our information and discount the losers. Oh, that's right. If there are many successful bars in your area, okay, right. So if there are many successful bars in your area, you may think about opening one yourself, but the bars which failed are invisible to you. Their information is lost. So that's kind of a mouthful. Let's fix that. So I'll read it one more time. So we tend to focus on the survivors and the winners for our information and discount the losers. If there are many successful bars in your area, you may think about opening one yourself, but the bars which failed are invisible to you. Their information is lost. Survivorship bias. Can definitely think of sometimes for business. I feel like there should be like something for businesses, like someone that keeps track of failed businesses and why they failed. There probably is something out there, but I'm just maybe not interested in discovering that yet. Maybe in time. So that's 3. All 100. I wonder how long this video will be. So next up is we have reciprocation theory. So what is this? So without looking at the notes exactly, reciprocation theory is the idea that if I give you something, you'll give something to me in return later on. But there's another aspect to that, and that's the reciprocity conscience, something like that. In short, what you do is it's kind of like what Donald Trump talks about when he says the art of the deal or something like that. I've not actually read the stories behind it, but in essence, you ask for the highest thing. So for example, let's say you want to go to Disneyland. What you could say or ask your family is like, or like if you're a kid and like you want to go to Disneyland, you could say, hey, can we go to Europe? And they'll look at you all confused and saying, why do you want to go to Europe? And you'll say, I just want to see all the castles over there. And they'll say, no, we're not going to go to Europe because that's too expensive. And then you'll say, fine, can we go to Mexico? Because Mexico is obviously closer, assuming that you live in the United States. can we go to Mexico, assuming that's obviously closer and like it'll be cheaper, and then we can go and see the beaches in Mexico. And then your parents will look at you and say, no, we're not going to do that because that's still too much money. And you say, fine, can we go to Disneyland? And then they'll look at each other and think, well, Disneyland's kind of within our budget, so maybe. So that's kind of like the thought process behind it. You ask for something extraordinary at first, and then you go down layers, and ask for like something that the initial thing you really wanted. And if you think about it, you could probably get a lot. Meaning, you could ask to go to Europe, or you can ask to go to like Mexico. And then in reality, rather than like it being Disneyland, you could probably do like something really cool, like go to the Super Bowl or something. Something that's like above Disneyland, which you would like to go do, but something that would be way better than that, and then probably get that one thing, right? So let's see what the notes actually say. So we have reciprocation theory. And then let's go ahead and do this. Reciprocation is the act of doing something nice for someone. I felt like I screwed that up. For someone, with the expectation that they will do something nice in return for you. Right? One form of reciprocity is the idea of reciprocal concessions. That's what it was concessions, in which the requester lowers his or her initial requests, making the respondent more likely to agree to a second request. So did I spell that right? So reciprocation is the act of doing something nice for someone with the expectation that they will do something nice in return for you. One form of reciprocity is the idea of reciprocal concessions, in which the requester lowers his or her initial request, making the respondent more likely to agree to a second request. Cool. So not bad. We can go ahead and discard it then. Where are we at? So I've done 4. Oh, this is going to be a lot. So next one is first conclusion bias. First conclusion bias. And if we had to guess what that was before looking at notes, first conclusion bias would be the assumption that, what would it be? It would be like the assumption that you think something is, but it is not in reality. Meaning like, so the example that I had written down, like the story behind it, the anecdote, it was, let's say hypothetically your wife leaves her. Oh, well, let's say hypothetically you spend all day trying to contact your wife. You send her phone number, you call her phone, you text her, you send her emails and all the rest, and you can't get a hold of her. You then think something bad's happened to her. As you like go through your house, you kind of like begin to worry, you start thinking through things, and you're like, this is the worst thing that could ever happen. And then finally you walk into your bedroom, and then you see that her phone is still on the table, meaning she never actually had her phone, so you wouldn't have been able to contact her in the first place. So that could be like a second order thinking. So that'll be something that I'll get into later too, like second order thinking, because there's a whole layer of information that you can think through things, like the idea of thinking through like a strategy for like a business. So let's say hypothetically you want to create a coffee business. So for those that don't know, California is on the track to begin cultivating coffee within obviously the state. And if that happens, if they're able to make the strains, which I think they are, make the strains of coffee in California, California will be one of the biggest producing, I guess it'll be one of their biggest cash crops in short. And so if you think that through, you can imagine like, okay, if I were to start a coffee business, where should I be located? Well, it would be better to be located probably near those, like where the coffee is being grown, right? So if you can do that, then in theory, you could potentially have a better business because you're able to get directly from the source. You could potentially have work with wholesale, and you could potentially just build a better business with coffee, which I wouldn't be surprised if Southern California became a hotspot for coffee connoisseurs. So back to this. So you have that's like second order thinking, right? So you think California, growing coffee, you start your business, you then focus on being next to a farm that grows coffee. Like start the business, the next step would be maybe making sure that it's near the farm, and then from there you can go into wholesale. So you like go from one thing to the next to the next. So that's what second order thinking is. So for this flashcard, it'll be our brains automatically seek evidence to confirm the first conclusion that we can't come to. This could be a way for our brains to conserve energy. I spelled that wrong. Energy. But it can lead us to confirm a wrong conclusion in some situations. So that's not too bad then. So let's read that one more time because I want to make sure I correct it. So our brains automatically seek evidence to confirm the first conclusion that we come to. This could be a way for our brains to conserve energy, but it can lead us to confirm a wrong conclusion in some situations. So not bad. So that's there. Where I'm at. So what I'm thinking of doing is I'm just going to do 10 a day over the course of 10 days, and then that should allow me to create all 100 flashcards for this. Yeah, I guess we'll kind of see like what comes of all these things, or I could just get it done, right? And then move on to like something else like data. So let's go ahead and add that, and let's go on and move to the next thing. So the next thing is confirmation bias. So before I look at the notes, confirmation bias in short, let's write that down, confirmation bias. So confirmation bias is the act in which our brains select selective information based on what we want the desired outcome to be. Meaning, we pick and choose the data which suits our objective or our thought or whatever that thing might be. We are selective in the information we take in. And as we all know, for those of us that work in data, that's the reason why there's so many people arguing on Twitter. Pretty much everyone's in their own bubble and no one thinks they don't stink. So where are we at with this? So confirmation bias. So when we have pre-existing beliefs, we often take facts and make them fit with these beliefs. Nice. Beliefs. I always spell beliefs wrong. So when we have pre-existing beliefs, we often take facts, and make them fit with these beliefs. Yeah, I did spell that wrong. Beliefs. I always spell that word weird. So facts are we like to agree with the facts which support our beliefs and throw out or misinterpret others or misrepresent it. It's so easy to do in data. It's so easy to make anything kind of happen with data. It's insane. So confirmation bias. When we have pre-existing beliefs, we often take facts and make them fit with these beliefs. Facts are interpreted selectively. We like to agree with the facts which support our beliefs. And throw out or misinterpret others. I spelled that wrong. Where are we at? So misinterpret. P-R-E-T. Others. Cool. The twaddle tendency. All right, so next up we have the twaddle tendency. And so what this one kind of is I'm not sure. So twaddle, what would that be? Twaddle. Twaddle tendency. So it's psychology. So what is that? So in psychology, from what I've gathered from yesterday's session of thinking through these, twaddling is the art or the act that as you get older, no. Actually, I'm doing it right now, I think. So the twaddle tendency is when you don't know something, you go on rambling on whatever it is that you don't know, or use big words or deceptive words to maybe make your point, right? So we could think about that in terms of data too. So like if you're working with like, there could be a couple of things with that. You could be like looking at the validated data and I don't know. My mind immediately went from like linear regression to machine learning, and then it went to validating data. So there's like a lot of ways that you could just like misrepresent or like use big words to someone that's not in data and like confuse them. Or like you could say like, hey, we joined the data from this to this, doing a left join, and then we all of a sudden group the data so it's aggregated. And if someone doesn't know what aggregation means nor left join, they're like, what are you talking about? So where are we at? So the twaddle tendency. So many people try to hide their inadequacies by saying something when they have nothing to say. Try to hide their inadequacies by saying something when they have nothing to say. Big words, woods, big words, pompous language, and jargon are used to mask a lack of knowledge. We would rather ramble, as I'm doing, we'd rather ramble than to not know about a subject. And that can also be tricky too. Like if you're a junior data analyst or data scientist, and like you're working with other people that know like the differences in neural networks or like whatever the weights and biases may be, and you're trying to interpret like what their code is as they're talking you through it, that could be a twaddle tendency. So let's read this one more time, make sure it's spelled right. So twaddle tendency. Many people try to hide their inadequacies by saying something when they have nothing to say. Big words, pompous language, and jargon are used to mask a lack of knowledge. We would rather ramble than to not know about a subject. Yeah, that's true. Or, in my case, I just lose my confidence and I lose what I'm going to say. So, there's that. We'll move on to authority misinfluence. What is this? Interesting. So, authority misinfluence. So, pretty much the fact that people follow authority figures, right? So, what does the note say? As a society, we have hierarchies. A few people lead and lots of people follow. Yep. As a society, we have how do you spell that? Hierarchies. A few people lead and lots of people follow. This is a natural human tendency. A tendency. So where's that word at? So we have a tendency to blindly follow those who are in power and not question their orders. We will often do something just because someone says so. Yeah, so that's never fun. Interesting. Yeah, again, my mind just keeps going back to Twitter with a lot of this stuff. Like everyone just kind of blindly follows whoever their followers are, or like whoever they're following. And usually those big accounts, like they have sway on the lesser accounts. Everything bad is in Twitter. So authority misinfluence. So the next one is census misinfluence. And this is the one I initially thought of with regards to the twaddle tendency. So as we get older, there's a natural drop in our skills and abilities. We can use continuous learning and mental stimulation to slow this decay, like doing a crossword every day or reading a book. So no, that's not bad. So we got sen. How do you spell that? Sensine? I'm probably mispronouncing that. Misinfluence. Something like that. As we get older, there is a natural drop in our skills and abilities. We can use how do you spell continuous? Continuous learning and mental stimulation to slow this decay. Right? Yep. And then like doing a crossword every day or reading a book. Not bad. So reading it one more time. So as we get older, there's a natural drop in our skills and abilities. We can use continuous learning and mental stimulation to slow this decay, like doing a crossword every day or reading a book. Cool. So what is that though? How do you say that? Census? Sensine? Census. Census misinfluence. Psychology. Next one, we have drug misinfluence. So drugs affect the brain. Drug misinfluence, just like DMT. So what do we have? So we have drugs or alcohol can throw us into a spiraling negative feedback loop, which can become self-reinforcing and impossible to escape from. We can be influenced to make big mistakes, so we should stay away from the big mistakes, the drugs in the first place. Yes, we should. So let's go ahead and create that. Drugs or alcohol can throw us into a spiraling negative feedback loop, which can become self-reinforcing. That's what right, reinforcing. Where am I at? So they can become self-reinforcing and impossible to escape from. We can be influenced to make big mistakes. The drugs, of course. The drugs in the first place. Wow, I think I butchered that. We can be influenced to make big mistakes in the first place. What? So we can be influenced to make mistakes. So we can be influenced to make big mistakes. Influenced to make big mistakes, comma. So we should stay away from the big mistakes, in the first place. Right. So that threw me off. So big mistakes was shown twice, and then my mind just caught on to the very last part. Cool. So drug misinfluence, and then this is the last one. Maybe I might just go with like 10 more, so then I don't have to keep doing this every day for 10 days. So where are we at? We have the drug misinfluence. The next one is the use it or lose it. And that is very true, and that's actually why I'm doing these. So my thought process for like making videos is like, I'm gonna have to make these things anyway, and I'm gonna have to spend time lifting, studying, practicing communication and other things. And so what I've found is that as I use the Feynman technique, which is pretty much teaching others about the things that I'm learning, usually those things stick, and they stick way better than me trying to repeat the thing over and over and over again, because I'm actually, quote, having a conversation, right? Like I'm thinking about it myself. So we have a use it or lose it. So the less we use something, such as a skill, the less useful and honed it will become. So one example of that is my Python ability. I used to be actually quite good. I learned Python about like quite well in a month. And then I started coding pretty much every day. And I was really, or I thought really competent by the second month. And then I started working with SQL, and I was like so on that. But eventually, because of every job that I had required SQL, I really just got good at SQL, and now my Python is just like kind of out the door. So something that I spent so much time using, a skill, is gone. And the same is true of weightlifting. I used to weigh 205, and now I'm like 170. Need to get my shoulder fixed. So, but the point is that we're going to be working with this. So the less you use something, such as a skill, the less useful and honed it will become. It is good practice. Practice. For us to work on our lesser use skills, like talking, so that we have them available to us when we need them, just like talking. So usually you lose it one last time. The less we use something, such as a skill, the less useful and honed it will become. It is good practice for us to work on our lesser used skills so that we have them available to us when we need them. Yep. Let's go ahead and do 10 more, just because I want to get this thing done. So rather than it being in 10 days, it'll be maybe in 5 days. But if I'm feeling like it, maybe we'll do 30. So out of 100, right? So we've just gone through the first 10, or at least I have. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Yeah, let's go ahead and go through these two. And then I'll decide if I want to stop or not. So the next one is availability. How do you spell available? Availability. Misweighing, whatever. I spelled that wrong. So we have availability, weighing. That's just, it seems odd. Like I feel like it should be misweighting, or misweigh. I don't know. This one, I actually have no clue what it is. So availability, misweigh. So we have a tendency to become more, we have a tendency to give more weight to the information which is at hand and easily remembered. We positively misjudge events if they happened more recently or with more frequency. When events are vivid, we remember them more easily. And that's why they say you should always couple this information with like stories or anecdotes, so that way you use a mnemonic memory to be able to remember those kind of things, right? And I guess it's also kind of related to the use it or lose it bias, right? So if you're not using something constantly, like the frequency of something, then is something, I guess you just won't have that, like that ability or that information at hand, right? So we have a tendency to give more weight to the information which is at hand and easily remembered. So did I spell that right? Yeah. So we positively misjudge events. What would that mean, though? We positively misjudge events. So we positively misjudge events. events if they happened more recently or with more frequency. When events are vivid, we remember them more easily. So not bad. So let's read that one more time. So what is this really? The availability misweighing. Availability misweighing. How would you use that in like in real life though? Maybe it's just like if you watch too many TED Talks and you take in too much information, then even though those things may be stimulating at the time, and maybe some of those things may be useful, like taking cold showers, for example, something that William Wim Hof and many people around like 2015 began speaking on. How many of us actually take cold showers now? I personally do not. So let's read that one more time. So we have a tendency to give more weight to the information which is at hand and easily remembered. We positively misjudge events if they happened more recently or with more frequency. When the events are vivid, we remember them more easily. I guess that could also play in part to like kind of what's going on in the world today too. Like with regards to everyone staying home, work from home, right? I won't get into the topic too much, but the availability misweighing bias. Didn't really say bias, but availability misweighing, and it is psychology. Now, what's this? So this one is also psychology, but it's stress influence. Stress influence. And then, like, what could this be, right? So if we had to guess, I'm guessing the more stressed out we are, the less competent our decisions, like the less we're able to make good decisions. So what is this? So stress can be both good or bad for us. So under stress, we can complete tasks and have an enhanced focus for a short period of time. Yet stress can also lead us to act without thinking. Constant stress can affect our health. Light stress, on the other hand, can improve our performance. I'm not sure about that. Like, so for example, if you're squatting, and if you're squatting heavy, you're putting a lot of stress on your legs. And after that stress is alleviated because you've hit your third rep of 10 reps, third set of 10 reps, you usually feel better after that. And personally, I actually always enjoyed leg day, but I guess that's a different kind of stress. Like it's a you stress, as Tim Ferriss talks about in 4-Hour Workweek. So stress will influence us though, for sure. Stress can be both good and bad for us. Under stress, we can complete tasks and have an enhanced focus for a short, did I spell that right? For a short period of time. Yet stress can also lead us to act without thinking. That is true. Constant stress can affect our health in not good ways, or so we think. Light stress, on the other hand, can improve our performance, and that's kind of subjective. Like, what performance is that, right? Regardless, though, I think we can all agree that stress does have an impact on our abilities to think, meaning if you're people that are usually stressed usually have high emotions, especially if something's like immediate and now and you can't really make a good decision. But also if you're putting yourself into stressful situations constantly, you may not feel the deterioration of your back. Something that I kind of went through when I was working on, like when I was learning about new data sets and working with the new organization that I was working with. I had to learn I don't know, 11 or 12 different tables, and I had to make sure that all of those tables, well, I didn't make sure of anything. I was just trying to figure out how to calculate pretty much AOV. Like, how would you calculate coupons and discounts? And there was like all these other kind of things, like should you use the tax? Should you use this coupon code? Does it need to be subtracted from the subtotal, or is the subtotal already filled with that? And all these kind of things that kind of build on top of each other as you try to build a story with data and try to create charts and graphs and explain what's going on, even though you yourself really have no clue. Yeah, that does kind of suck. So next up we have the contrast misreaction. That's weird. So what is that? So we often compare people and objects to other people and objects, evaluating their worth based on comparison. We should evaluate these things individually and not by their contrast or something else. So that one's kind of deep. You may know. Oh, I see what's going on. How can you compare them? Hey, you're right. We should get. Wow. Okay. So where am I at? So we're like stress influence. Now we're moving on to contrast misreaction. So what do we got with this? So we often compare people and objects to other people and objects, evaluating their worth based on comparisons. We should evaluate these things individually and not by their contrast to something else. So I guess you could think of that as like picking stocks, right? So, or like picking between two options, like when you're faced with an A/B decision. Like let's say hypothetically you got into, let's do like Harvard or Yale. Both are Ivy League institutions, and you could kind of see how you could compare them against each other in order to make a good decision. But I guess in order to make a better decision based on what this is saying, so we often compare people and objects to other people and objects, evaluating the worth based on comparisons. We should evaluate these things individually and not by contrasting to something else. So if you look at Harvard and Yale individually, you could probably just look at like the pros of all of them. Like meaning you could look at their weather. You could probably look at what faculty teaches there and not compare them against each other. Just say this person teaches there. Can I learn from them? Or like, can I learn from this person, right? So like taking each thing individually and I guess breaking it down and just seeing like what it is. And then don't compare it to something else. Like if you go to Harvard, you'll then have like that Harvard alumni, I guess. You're comparing the Harvard alumni against like the Yale alumni or something like that. So that would be kind of one thing. Or you could compare like two cars, but I guess you kind of should compare cars. Maybe it's also kind of like when it comes to just making like a different kind of decision, like picking a stock or something like that. Maybe I should put $1,000 into crypto. Maybe I should put $1,000 into real estate. I don't know. So the next one that we have, so we have contrast misreaction. Contrast misreaction. Cool. The next one is over-optimism. And that one I've done a lot. Over-optimism. Did I spell that right? Tim-ism. Flip the I and the S. So what is this? So it's psychology. Over-optimism and overconfidence. Most of us have a tendency to overestimate ourselves. We believe that we are more intelligent, honest, happier, ethic than the average person. But we cannot all be above average. Confidence is good, but overconfidence can create a bias. Yup. Definitely. Most of us have a tendency to overestimate ourselves. We believe, where am I at, that we are more intelligent. Spell that right? More intelligent, honest, happier, ethic than the average person. But We cannot all be above average. Perfect. Okay, let's read that one more time. So over-optimism. Nice. Okay. Most of us have a tendency to overestimate ourselves. We believe that we are more intelligent, honest, happier, ethic than the average person, but we cannot all be above average. Confidence is good, but overconfidence can create a bias in us. So, yeah, I would say we're all definitely subject to that. Even in the things that we're good at. We're not as good as we think we are, but yet we're also not as bad as we think we are. I guess those two could go together. Contrast misreaction, meaning you compare yourself to another person and having over-optimism in your own abilities in comparison to the other people around you, when in reality you should not be over-optimistic. And likewise, you should be aware of the contrast misreaction, meaning you should judge yourself solely based on your, I guess, self. But then you would never have any goals to set, right? So I guess they're like, this would be interesting to see like how I learn these things, and I guess if you're still watching, how you learn these things. So next up we have excessive self-regard. Interesting. What is that? Self-regard. So what is this? So the more we know, the more we understand what we don't know. Yeah. But also the less we know, because then we now know that there's more to be known. That's why there's I could go down the rabbit hole of like math and statistics and data in general, because the more I learn, it's like, shoot, I thought that I would know everything by now. It's like, nope. So the more we know, the more we understand what we do not know. We have a tendency, how do you spell that? Tendency to overestimate our ability, just like my spelling. Ability, when we have a little experience or knowledge. When we have little experience or knowledge, right? So this optimism does have benefits. Dude, benefits. Benefits. How do you spell benefits? Benefits and blank. It means that we are willing to dive into new things. So let's read that again. So excessive self-regard. The more we know, the more we understand what we do not know. True. We have a tendency to overestimate our ability when we have a little experience. That doesn't make sense. A little experience or knowledge. It should be when we have little experience or knowledge. Yeah. When we have little experience or knowledge. This optimism does not. What? This optimism does have benefits. It means that we are willing to dive into new things. Is that right? Optimism does have benefits. It means that we are willing to dive into new things. So is this good? I was thinking that all of these would just be like to make you aware of daily habits and activities. Excessive self-regard. The more we know, the more we understand we do not know. We have a tendency to overestimate our abilities when we have little experience or knowledge. This optimism does have benefits and means that we are willing to dive into new things. So it's pretty much the known, which is not known, compared to the unknown, which is not known. Cool. Can't believe we're almost done with 20. We got 5 more to go. So I've done 15. Wow, 15? What time is it? This is, I guess maybe I'll try to finish them all today. This will be interesting. So what do we have? We have influence from mere association. I guess this could also be regarded as, what's it called? What's the word I'm looking for? It is when cows learn from other cows. And there's a word for it that starts with an O. Oh, shoot. Pretty much the baby cow learns from the mama cow, and it's called blank. what is it called? It's called optimism. No, I'll think of it. Osmosis. That's what it's called. It's called osmosis. So osmosis, I'm assuming, is similar to this, but let's find out. So influence from mere association. What would that be? So a conditioned reflex where a response is triggered by an association. You may have experiences where spending more has resulted in higher quality goods, so you seek out more expensive goods. You may buy a product with a cat on the package because you love cats. Interesting. So you buy stuff that you're familiar with, in short. So perhaps that might be a good thing. Like let's say you're selling coffee again, and let's say hypothetically, because everyone's accustomed to the green of like Starbucks, right? So you have the green and the white. Maybe you could make your branding green as well. And then instead of having it like look like a mermaid, you could have it look like something else. But you're associating coffee with something that people already are familiar with. Or Pete's. Pete's is brown. So maybe not. But you could probably do something like maybe with the product itself. Or maybe if you use wine, like if you sell wine bottles, you could perhaps use, what's it called? Candlestick wax. So you dip the bottle of wine in the candlestick wax, and then you're associating it with a better wine, perhaps, because you know it's I don't know, got the aroma of something that's good, right? Something that's I guess old. I don't know. The conditioned reflex, where a response is triggered by an association. You may have experiences where spending more has in higher quality goods, so you seek out more expensive goods. I spelled that wrong. No, I didn't. So you seek out more expensive goods. Or another option is you may buy a product with a cat on it because you love cats. A cat on the packaging. Yeah, because you love cats. Because you love. Because you love cats. So let's read that one more time. So influence from mere association. A conditioned reflex where a response is triggered by an association. You may have experiences where spending more has resulted in higher quality goods. So you seek out more expensive goods. Also, you may buy a product with a cat on the packaging because you love cats. So there's a lot of ways that you can have that kind of influence affecting someone. But I think the important thing would be like, how can we combine these? How can we combine all like Parkinson's law, Occam's razor, survivorship bias, reciprocity, first conclusion, confirmation bias, twaddle tendency, and all the rest? How can we combine these together to maybe not misrepresent or influence people in a bad way, but to do something good, maybe? Whatever good is subjective. So the next one is Kantian fairness tendency. Kantian fairness tendency. So what is that? What is Kantian Kantian fairness tendency. So the pursuit of fairness for everyone and everything. We believe in people being treated equally, but that is not the case. The definition of fairness, of how people should be treated, differs from person to person, and we should adjust our behavior accordingly. That's quite a good thought. The pursuit of fairness for everyone and everything. We believe in people being treated equally, but that is not the case. The definition where are we at? The definition of fairness of how people should be treated differs from person to person, and we should adjust our behavior accordingly. Right? Is that spelled right? Let's read this one more time. So, Kantian, dude, I gotta figure out how to say these. Okay, I spelled that wrong. Kantian fairness tendency. So, the pursuit of fairness for everyone and everything. We believe in people being treated equally, but that is not the case. The definition of fairness of how people should be treated differs from person to person, and we should adjust our behavior accordingly. Cool. Alright, I got 3 more. And then I'll probably call it quits. So next up is we have curiosity instinct, another psychology one. So what is this? So the inbuilt instinct which leads us to innovate and explore based on our curiosity. It has led us to acquire information and knowledge about the world around us. Curiosity provides us with an incentive to innovate, explore, and learn. Not bad. So let's see this one, and we got 2 more, or 3 more. Curiosity instinct. So the inbuilt instinct which leads us to innovate and explore based on our curiosity. So it has led us to acquire information and knowledge about the world around us. Curiosity provides us with an incentive. I feel like I keep spelling it wrong. Incentive to innovate, explore, and learn. So the curiosity instinct. So the inbuilt instinct which leads us to innovate and explore based on our curiosity has led us to acquire information and knowledge about the world around us. Curiosity provides us with an incentive to innovate, explore, and learn. Wow, I spelled it wrong twice. Nice. Okay, good. So not bad. So we got a couple more. So now we have inconsistency avoidance. So what is that? Inconsistency avoidance. Cool. What is that? So as people, we are reluctant to change or to become inconsistent. This means that bad habits are hard to change, but once we have learned good habits, it is easy to keep them. I'm not sure if that's true. Meaning habits can be formed in like many different ways. So we are, what is that word? Reluctant to change or to become inconsistent. This means that bad habits are hard to change, but once we have, okay, I agree. Once we have learned good habits, it is easy to keep them. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So let's read it one more time, just to make sure I didn't misspell anything. So I probably did. Inconsistency avoidance. As people, we are reluctant to change or to become inconsistent. This means that bad habits are hard to change, but once we have learned good habits, it is easy to keep them. Cool. All right, so this will be 20. So next up is doubt avoidance, meaning, what would that mean? Doubt, avoid. So what could that possibly be? As in, you want to avoid the doubt and you want to have hope? Like hope that your football team wins? I don't know. So when faced with this, hold on. When faced with decisions riddled with doubt, we are hardwired to make quick decisions to remove the doubt, often leaving us with our own decision. Law courts force jurors to take time before reaching a decision to deal with this doubt. So I guess you could combine that too with stress. So when you're in a stressful state, you should definitely take a step back and wait before making a decision, unless you really had to in a moment. Which, if that's the case, then you should practice that ahead of time. Practice like making hard decisions, or practice being stressful, or something like that. So when faced with decisions riddled with doubt, we are hardwired to make quick decisions, right? Yep. We are hardwired to make quick decisions to remove the doubt, often leaving us with a wrong decision. Law courts force, I don't know, do they force them? I don't know. Jurors to take time before reaching a decision to deal with this doubt. And let's hope that they always continue to do that. So doubt avoidance. When faced with a decision, riddled with doubt. When faced with decisions, right? Yeah. Riddled with doubt, we are hardwired to make quick decisions to remove the doubt, often leaving us with a wrong decision. Law courts force jurors to take time before reaching a decision to deal with this doubt. Okay. So I've spent maybe 40 minutes working on this. So, and I kind of feel that I've kind of like reached my peak for talking for now. And this is another reason like why I want to keep recording these, so then I can just practice communicating, even if it is just about ideas, just to get in the habit of speaking a lot, since I don't actually do that a lot right now because of my job. So now that that's over with, I've got another 80 more of these to go through, and I'm probably just going to do 20 a day, and I think that'll be fine. 20 a day for 5 days, that's 10 days, and then I could go ahead and share like these flashcards for people that don't want to download Anki. With that said, let's go ahead and just close out for this for now, and then I'll probably create a video a little bit later about creating a forecasting model for data science or data analysis, but I need to refresh on some things, so we'll see what happens. But I'll go ahead and end this one here. I guess I'll see you in the next one, so thanks.